Back to one of my favorite subjects, Gibson vintage guitars. And back to one of my all-time favorite models, the ES335. We are focusing on production year 1963. A story in particular gives us the opportunity to deal with three hot topics: restoration, reissue, and upgrades. That's the Odyssey of Rich Robinson's 1963 ES335. All's Well That Ends Well is a comedy by William Shakespeare. Sadly, our story doesn't start well at all.
22,000 miles up, a weather satellite records the formation of a hurricane in the Caribbean Sea.
In October 2012, a destructive hurricane named Sandy strikes 8 countries from the Caribbean to Canada through the US East Coast. Across its trail of destruction, Sandy kills hundreds of people and inflicts extensive damage. Narrowing down to our field of interest, the Black Crowes have their storage warehouse in New Jersey completely flooded. Most of the equipment is damaged beyond repair. The guitar player of the band, Rich Robinson, loses about 60 instruments, including vintage guitars and amplifiers. His number one, an all-original 1963 Gibson ES335 with Bigsby, suffers severe damage. Very few vintage guitars came down to us as pristine collectibles. The most part just didn't. Robinson's guitar underwent a complex restoration at RS Guitar Works in Kentucky. The work took about 1 year. The luthier basically had to dry the guitar, take it all apart, clean it from the mold, rebuild it from the scratch with its original components, and refinish it. The restoration process inspired another ambitious project. Having the guitar under open heart surgery was a precious opportunity to study its features in depth, so the idea was born to develop a custom shop signature reissue. Between 2013 and 2017, the Gibson Custom Division in Memphis was run by a team of esteemed professionals. They built some of the finest limited edition artist reissue ES335s, such as the 1959 Rusty Anderson and the 1961 Warren Haynes, both destined to remain classics. The Rich Robinson signature model, released in 2014 in a limited run of only 500 pieces, would become also part of this lucky celebrity series. When I visited the Gibson factory in Memphis after a show in 2016, these guitars were proudly exposed in the main hallway. What are the distinct features found in a 1963 ES335? First of all, in the course of the previous year, Gibson switched from dot fingerboard markers to small block inlays, which was considered a cosmetic upgrade. Most 335s with block markers were finished in cherry red, far less in sunburst. 6 more changes followed shortly. 1. Pickup stickers. In July 1959, Seth Lover finally had received a patent reference number from the office for his humbucker pickup after waiting more than 4 years. At the time, Gibson still had a huge stock of old pickup stickers with the generic indication Patent Applied for, so they just kept using those labels. By 1963, these famous PAF stickers ran out, so they printed new stickers with a patent number. In this transition period, we can find humbuckers in 3 versions, with the old patent-applied 4 bottom sticker, much sought after by collectors, With the newer patent number sticker, which actually indicates a wrong reference number, or some pickups have no sticker at all. These pickups are all the same, the only difference being the sticker glued upon their base plate. They are PAF humbuckers from the last generation, with shorter Alnico 5-bar magnet and more consistent specifications. When they have a patent number label, they are commonly referred to as patent number PAFs. These pickups are widely revered, which accounts to the great reputation of these guitars. In fact, 335s from 1963 and 1964 are generally regarded as tone monsters. An example is the famous Eric Clapton's Crossroads ES-335. 2. Bridge. Between late 1962 and early 1963, Gibson phased out metal bridge saddles and introduced nylon saddles. Seems that nylon was adopted to facilitate the string's slide across the saddle when using a vibrato arm. Shortly after that, Gibson added a retaining wire to keep the saddles firmly into place in case of string breakage. Both solutions were never popular among players. In fact, I'm not a fan of the malware attack of nylon saddles, and the retaining wire may warp when removed and reinstalled, causing string rattle. Some high-quality ABR1 bridges have saddles that just stay in place without a wire. 3. Body shape. After mid-1963, the original body shape with rounded cutaways, nicknamed Mickey Mouse ears, was changed to a shape with more pointy horns. The most popular theory says that the old forms or templates were out and needed to be replaced. On the new templates, they opted for a less extreme bend radius of the arches on the cutaways, which would prevent accidental breakages during the manufacturing process. 4. Neck profile. Around the same time, they reverted to a fatter neck profile, probably by popular demand of customers. This is another feature that makes late 1963 and 1964 ES-335s particularly desirable to contemporary guitarists. 5. Strap buttons. They switched from plastic to metal strap buttons. 6. Center block cutout. The ES-345 and 355 had a carving or cutout in the maple center block, near the pickup cavities, to accommodate the choke transformers for the baritone circuit, one for each pickup. On the contrary, the ES-335 originally came with a solid center block with no cutout. At some point, in 1962, it was decided to carve a section of the center block, so that the pickup cavity was open to the lower hollow wing of the guitar. This opening facilitates the installation of the wiring harness during the manufacturing process. Theoretically, the cutout should add some resonance and subtract some sustain. Actually, experts agree that it doesn't seem to make a big deal of tonal difference. Oddly, the cutout didn't become a standard procedure until 1965. In 1963, most 355s still came out of the factory with a fully solid center block. Rich Robinson's 335 is one of those. It is worth stressing that these changes were gradual. In fact, 335s made from 1962 through 1965 present a substantial overlap of features. Another feature found in Rich Robinson's guitar is the custom-made plaque, as typically used between late 1961 and early 1965 on Mini 335s with Bigsby. This plate was mounted at the factory to cover the stud bushings for the stop tailpiece when a Bigsby tailpiece was installed instead. In fact, most bodies were drilled by default. so a patch was needed when the stop tailpiece holes remained exposed. When the Rich Robinson's 1963 ES-335 reissue came out, I was just happy with my vintage guitars, and I had not been interested in new guitars for years. Eventually something clicked inside me and I was tempted, even if I've never been a fan of the Black Crowes in particular. I came across a video demo by Wildwood Guitars and I was impressed by its tone. I just decided to sell something and buy one. How close did the Rich Robinson 1963 ES-335 reissue get to the original? Rich said he was satisfied with the result. I have to agree that the guitar indeed sounded good right out of the box. It also stayed well in tune, even with extensive use of the Bigsby. It comes with a custom-made plaque, which actually covers unused stop bar bushings. By removing the plaque, the guitar could be easily converted to stop-tail configuration. It boasts accurate cosmetics, aged nickel hardware, correct body binding color, and nitro lacquer finish with spot-on cherry red hue. On the other hand, it's not really a philological reissue. In fact, Rich Robinson's mentioned that the neck is a bit thinner than the original. Besides, it has a nut width slightly larger than standard, enough to accommodate red neck fingers in the cowboy chord zone. Finally, it has the center block cut out, which the original doesn't. All things considered, it's a very good guitar and a great compromise if you either can't afford an original or need a stunt double to keep the original safe at home in your guitar vault. Still, this was not enough to make me feel fully satisfied. I wanted to experiment some upgrades to improve the tone. I really wanted to make it as close as I could to an original vintage from the 60s. I named my guitar The Prince, after the character of a popular Italian comedy.
A giovano, sta mano può essere ferro e può essere piuma.
My hand can be both strong like iron and delicate like feather, he boasts, which I found appropriate to describe the impressive dynamic range of a good 335. Speaking of dynamic range, I started from the pickups. The Rich Robinson reissue came with Bassbacher 1 at the neck and the Bassbacher 2 at the bridge, with slightly hotter output. These pickups are not bad, still they sound rather compressed when compared to vintage pickups. Bassbachers cannot compete with clarity, definition, articulation and touch sensitivity of old pattern number pickups from the 60s, let alone original PAFs. I've been lucky to get a period correct pattern number PAF from 1963, which sounds amazing. Notably, this is an unbalanced upgrade. This pickup pretty much doubles the value of the instrument. It would be best suited for a vintage original 335 or SG Les Paul, but of course, being a tone-discerning guitar player, I feel blessed to have it, and I really enjoy playing with it. the neck position I mounted an excellent T-top from around 1967. While working on the wiring harness, my talented luthier friend Michele Dalbis fixed a construction fault from the factory. Gibson usually connects the ground wire to the stud bushing on the treble side of the stop tail. When the guitar has a Bigsby, the ground wire should be connected to the hinge plate through a hole drilled near the strap button. In some Rich Robinson 335s, the grounding was simply neglected. Michele applied the proper grounding, armed with a precision drill. The guitar came with a reproduction of period-correct Sprague Black Beauty caps. We installed a couple of vintage original .022 Sprague Bumblebee caps. Those used in Gibson guitars from late 1956 to early 1961 had 400 volt rating. They are sought after by collectors and very expensive. I used a bigger type with 600 volt rating, which are as equally good tone-wise, but more affordable. Having settled the electronics, I took care of the hardware. This 335 came with Cluson Tuners reproductions made by WD. I didn't like them. They have thinner shaft fitting through thicker bushings in standard peghead holes. I found a set of standard bushings and installed a set of original double-line, double-ring Cluson tuners from around 1966. I have vintage Clusons on most of my guitars. They just work fine for me and give me a pleasant vintage feel. ABR1 bridge is a critical component. I've been experimenting different solutions, one of which is the APR1 made in USA by Pigtail. It's a faithful recreation of the vintage no-wire ABR1 bridges with metal saddles from the 50s. My friend Vincenzo Monreale from Varese studied in depth the posts and thumb wheels of those bridges. He created the brand name Royal Mount and started to market high-quality reproductions. He found a small company in Switzerland that has been manufacturing small precision mechanical components since 1936. They produce for him thumb wheels and bridge posts with the same procedure of the 1950s. They are accurate replicas down to the exact composition of the original soft brass material and copperless nickel plating. Posts and thumb wheels have the pivotal role to transmit strings vibration to the body. Modern Gibson stock hardware is very different from the original 50s parts, so this upgrade makes the difference when it comes to tone. With Royal Mount parts, I got extra chime, definition and sustain. They are a perfect complement to all guitars with ABR1 bridge. Royal Mount is also producing a conversion kit to install an ABR1 bridge on any Gibson with Nashville type bridge. Please find the Royal Mount link in the description. I've been working for more than 1 year to fine-tune all the elements into play and transform my Rich Robinson 335 in the Prince. My dear friend Manlio Maresca liked the result. As did my friend Don Diego. help to keep the BTR channel going with comments, feedbacks or donations. Subscribe now and click the bell to check out what's next. Come to visit the Facebook group Bob Stone Review and follow our Instagram profile.